Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our discussion panel on how natural hydrogen opens up new possibilities of cooperation between countries and operators. I'm Mike Levy. I'm Vice President R&D at AAQIUS, which is HYNAT's mother company. At AAQIUS, we create low CO2 technology standards and deploy them worldwide to create profitable businesses. I'm currently accompanying HYNAT during its development phase to bring it the key best practices that we've successfully deployed at AAQIUS. Now, the goal of the next half hour is to better understand the new and emerging relationships between natural hydrogen, companies, and countries. With HYNAT, we have invited two of our partners, 458 Energy and Beam HETOS, to present our common views on this topic. To get things moving, let me ask Alain PRINZHOFER, HYNAT CTO, to briefly explain his role in the company. Alain?
Hello, everybody. Well, I am the Chief Technical Officer of the newly born HYNAT company, subsidiary of AAQIUS. And I'm a geologist and geochemist working actively during these last years on natural hydrogen. And my role in this company is to try to have success in exploration, production of natural hydrogen in several countries for the moment, mainly located in the south, but which may be in other places of the world.
Thank you, Alain. Nicolas Pellissier, you're CEO of 458. Welcome. We're happy to have you here on our panel. Nicolas, what is your core business?
Yeah, thank you, Michael, for the invitation to speak about our growing partnership. And of course, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nicolas Pellissier, president of 458 Energy, a startup I co-founded 4 years ago. And basically, the core business of our company is the exploration of strategic industrial gases, which are essential to the ecological transition and new tech, such as helium and, of course, natural hydrogen.
Thank you, Nicolas. Pierre Levin is the CTO of Beam HETOS. Pierre, could you talk to us a little bit about Beam's activities and also HETOS?
Thank you very much. So I'm the co-founder and CTO of the Beam Group. We are an expert in advanced and environment-friendly technology in subsurface. So we have demonstrated in our oil fields that you can produce oil and gas in an economic way while being totally environment-friendly. And through HETOS, which is our hydrogen operating arm, we intend to develop operatorship of hydrogen fields in cooperation with our partners, leveraging the experience we have in oil and gas industry.
Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Nicolas. Thank you, Alain. Thank you once again for being on this panel. Let's get right into things. We've heard a lot about green hydrogen, but we've heard a lot less about natural hydrogen, which is a new natural resource. And obviously, there are a lot of expectations regarding natural hydrogen, especially in emerging countries. And I know and I hope that many members of emerging countries are listening in or dialing into this workshop. So let me briefly explain what we think makes natural hydrogen a game changer. If we look at it just from the energy perspective, for the first time in history, we have a source of energy that is, as far as we can tell, available just about everywhere on our planet. It's easily accessible and thus is inexpensive. It's also renewable and it is easily stored. So these four factors in our mind enable local production for local consumption in emerging countries. And this allows for the planetization of energy in the 21st century, as opposed to our old 20th century globalization model, where you have centralized production in emerging countries and export towards the developed regions. This is the game changer that can allow for new models of cooperation between countries and resource operators. Now, Pierre, let me ask you one obvious question that is frequently raised. It appears that there are abundant reserves and resources of natural hydrogen. And as a specialist in subsurface complex issues and technologies, what challenges do you see for natural hydrogen production?
Thank you, Michael. I fully agree that this is indeed a revolution and a fabulous opportunity for the many countries who have natural hydrogen resources. However, between the reservoir and surface, we need to produce. And natural hydrogen is a brand new industry with limited production history. So we have to learn a lot and be humble in front of the reservoir. While the present hydrogen is clearly evidenced, the optimization of its production will require to face a number of technical challenges. And of course, HETOS' main mission here will be to develop solutions to the challenges. For example, hydrogen reservoir mechanism and structure are still largely unknown. So I will leave Alain talk more about this because he's one of the world experts in this matter. But the way hydrogen migrates to the surface is or is not trapped or accumulated has yet to be understood. And this will have an impact on the reservoir simulation and on wells architecture. As well, we have to understand there is so far only one known example of commercial production of hydrogen in Mali. This is very successful and quite economic. However, this is a shallow field, and we still have to learn what happens when you look for hydrogen at 1,000, 2,000 meters. As well, hydrogen is a very active chemical product. So it will interact with all the equipment, and we'll have to adapt the equipment to that specificity as well as all the downhole chemicals. And another major challenge is that hydrogen is flammable at 4% in the atmosphere, explosive at 18%. So being very conscious of the safety of the crew on surface, we will have to make sure we have all the sensor technologies needed to be able to detect this hydrogen at surface whenever it appears and protect our teams. I mean, all those challenges will require great agility and a lot of cooperation between the key players.
Exactly. Thank you very much for this very, very complete answer. And I could almost feel Alain smiling as you talked about him. Turning to you, Alain, if you look at this slide, we see a map of the world, and it shows natural hydrogen geological markers, which are the little red dots. Now, some areas are relatively empty, such as Africa and the southern part of South America. Does this mean that these regions have less potential, or have they just simply been less explored?
They have clearly been less explored. This map, which shows today what the knowledge of the evidence of natural hydrogen on Earth, the same map a couple of years ago was half empty, let's say. So it's really something which is very new, growing. The map is evolving very rapidly. And it's true that some parts of this map are relatively empty, like the center of Africa or the southern part of South America. It doesn't mean that there are areas without any potential. On the contrary, I think that these areas, which are in the center of old continents, are, to our knowledge today, some of the best targets for hydrogen explorations. It's just because these areas have not been explored so far, but they have probably quite a high as the rest of the Earth.
That's a very, very interesting comment, and that's very encouraging. Now, when I look at this map, and I think a lot of the people in this conference have heard about the example of Mali. Mali seems a good example to extrapolate business information to other potential natural hydrogen field explorations. Do you think that conditions will be similar worldwide?
Well, it's a difficult question, of course, because as you know, Mali today is the most advanced project in terms of knowledge, of exploration, of drilling, and of course, it's very tempting to consider that any new field of natural hydrogen would be similar. I would think that it won't be the only hydrogen field of this kind. I don't think Mali is an exception. We will quite certainly find other accumulations which will look like exactly the Mali accumulations. However, this is probably one of the possible ways to find and to produce hydrogen. I would guess that, as you know, Mali is a very shallow accumulation. Probably there will be deeper hydrogen accumulations, so easy to produce, as Pierre pointed out just before. But this would be, let's say, our first targets. We'll try to find the easiest way to produce hydrogen. Mali is one of those cases, in the same way that hydrocarbons in the 19th century were produced at very shallow depths, and because of the need of finding new resources, it was deeper and deeper. I would guess that in the future, we will look for other kinds of accumulations and possibly other kinds of production technologies for hydrogen generation.
Absolutely, Alain. Thank you for that, for these comments, and let's continue on this business perspective. Let me try to quantify what we mean by some of the promises that we hear about natural hydrogen, which is, for example, low capex, low opex. As many in the oil and gas industry know, there's a pretty straightforward relationship between well depth and investment. For depths below 1 kilometer, which is where we think natural hydrogen can be found today, as Alain indicated, you're looking at much less than $500,000 in capex per well. And this is opposed to, say, the average cost of a typical oil and gas well, which is around $5 million today. For local decentralized production, which is possible with natural hydrogen, we also estimate that operating costs will be on the order of $500,000 to $600,000 a year. And logistics costs are significantly lower because, once again, the promise is that we are locally consuming what we locally produce. Now, all of this added up leads to the 50 cents per kilogram cost target for natural hydrogen. And this is what provides also very quick paybacks, under 6 years for most of these investments. And if we go even further, there is an interesting point about this 50 cents per kilogram cost target, because if you look at the most recent McKinsey study on what is the required hydrogen production cost for break-even with conventional solutions, in other words, what is needed on the hydrogen side so that hydrogen can then replace conventional highly carbonated solutions, you see that you need to get below roughly $1.50 per kilogram to be able to penetrate ammonia refining. And you need to get below, say, 60 cents per kilogram to be able to address mid-sized vehicle mobility, to address steel production, to address building heating, airplanes. So you really do need natural hydrogen to achieve these low costs and to reach these very hard to decarbonize usage segments. Now, with this new natural resource, countries have to face a choice. Which kind of model do they want to deploy? Do you want to continue to deploy an outdated 20th century business model, or an innovative 21st century one based on local production and local consumption? Let me give a couple of examples of what local uses can be enabled by natural hydrogen for the reasons that I just mentioned on the previous slide. And it's important not to forget that in today's world, hydrogen feeds the planet. Hydrogen is the primary feedstock chemical in the production of ammonia, and ammonia is used to make fertilizers. So in many rapidly growing emerging countries, the issue of feeding their people is a key issue, a key problem. Natural hydrogen will enable the production of fertilizers locally at low costs. So here is one obvious local use. And on the energy side, mobility applications will also be enabled locally by natural hydrogen, given its low production costs. So, Nicolas, Pierre mentioned previously that natural hydrogen exploration and production involves very big technological challenges. What are your thoughts, especially for the exploration part, which is the core business of 45.8 Energy?
Yes, thank you, Michael. Definitely, E&P of natural hydrogen is highly challenging and will require innovation. It is basically the birth of a new industrial branch associated to a geological innovation. So hydrogen has never been explored or produced specifically, and will then require methodological and technological innovation. So let's consider more specifically the exploration sector. First, and Pierre spoke a bit previously about it, it is key to properly understanding the origin and the favorable geological context associated to the production, migration, potential accumulation, temporary or not, within the subsurface. I think Alain will detail this aspect a bit more in detail later in this workshop, but clearly a close collaboration between academics and corporate is key to accelerate our comprehension on that domain. In parallel, some technological needs are logically arriving on the table, and no actor will be able to address them alone. Let's take an example. It is well known, thanks to various publications, that hydrogen does not leak continuously from the subsurface, but more on a pulse basis. It is therefore mandatory to find a way to monitor this flux over a long period of time, but doing this is definitely not as simple. There was not such a kind of tool available on the market, and it was a real lack identified in natural hydrogen exploration. Okay, within 45 Energy, we decided 2 years ago to address the problem in developing a new type of gas sensor based on semiconductor technology, and clearly, alone, it wouldn't have been possible, and it is the reason why we are developing this technology in partnership. It's basically an example, but of course, we could take several. Currently, we have 7 ongoing R&D programs within 45 Energy, covering the entire natural hydrogen value chain, and all, I say really all, are performed in collaboration with partners. Following this logic, it was for us an obviousness to support the proposal of HYNAT to join an initiative promoting technical and operational collaboration.
We could only fully agree with what you just said, Nicolas.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your comments. And as a follow-on, Pierre, what do you think the impact of advanced technologies will be on the development of this emerging natural hydrogen extraction industry?
Well, technologies will have a massive impact on this new industry, and this industry needs technology. If we take upstream, you will need new reservoir simulations, you will need specific well architectures, you will need to design a whole range of hydrogen-specific well equipment, Christmas trees, BOP, separators, and safety equipment. You will need to figure out hydrogen-proof casing, tubing, downhole equipment, hydrogen-compatible chemicals, formers. On the midstream side, you will need to develop hydrogen-proof pipelines, because again, hydrogen is not the best friend of alloys. So your pipelines will need to be hydrogen-proof, and that will be a major investment. And as well, pipelines will never be enough for the entire need of hydrogen, so you will need to develop as well more efficient way of transport for hydrogen, including use of, so I heard about toluene storing and so on, but we need really new development of hydrogen storage technologies.
Thank you, Pierre. And I think that with Alain PRINZHOFER, we can only fully agree. New technologies, innovation. At HYNAT, we think that the best way to address all of the challenges and opportunities of the emerging natural hydrogen industry is by structuring 3 key areas. Obviously, scientific and technical knowledge, for the reasons that Pierre and Nicolas, you've just explained. Also, operational excellence. We'll be talking about that a little bit later, and creating a network of common interests. Now, HYNAT is deploying a platform for each of these areas with our partners. Alain, here on this slide, we see HYNAT's new platform for scientific and technical knowledge in natural hydrogen. I know you plan to help the training of local students for the future of hydrogen exploration in their countries. How are you going to do this? How are you going to go about doing it?
Well, I think to continue what Nicolas and Pierre were saying, I think we all agree the three partners around the virtual table today and beyond us, we all agree that we're facing a very high potential project, but we're also facing a lack of knowledge because it's very new. And in order to progress, I think we really need to be very innovative and to have an ambitious program of scientific network. And on this slide, there are different universities, different academic universities working with us on this project. And I think we'll need more and more aggregation of academic intelligence and also technical and business help. And that's why I'm so happy that today we present this partnership between us. Going back to your question, these projects about exploration, production of natural hydrogen will occur in different countries. A lot of them are emerging countries. And as our plan is to try to decentralize the relationship between humankind and energy needs, it is paramount to train locally people from the universities of these emerging countries, for example, through different processes. It may be masters, it may be sandwich PhDs between local universities and northern universities, some of them we're in network with, and it may be postdoctoral work. All this research effort is, I think, absolutely paramount to succeed more and more in this project of natural hydrogen exploration.
That's on the basically the human resource side. What about research equipment? Do you plan the acquisition of significant research equipment in local universities?
Yes, for sure. To perform this kind of work of exploration production, you need some equipment. Some are relatively small, some are quite heavy. For the moment, there are some of these equipments in different countries on Earth, but our goal is also to develop locally, I mean, close to the areas where hydrogen is found, to develop some lab equipments with a lot of high-tech technologies, which help already trying to better understand natural hydrogen, but will help but much more when it will be really in situ, very close to the working areas, I would say.
Thank you for your answer, Alain. It's very, very clear. Let me go now to operational excellence, because we are convinced that we need to bring together, as we've already done with 445 Energy and HETOS Beam, we need to bring together players, first of all, that are dedicated to putting in place a new model of local cooperation between countries and operators. I think this is what makes us so unique. Furthermore, we need to bring complementary skills throughout the entire life cycle of a production site. In other words, going from research to exploration and appraisal, through development, production, and even going to the end of life, to abandonment. And we need to bring together players that are very agile. And that's why the companies that you see here in our partnership we're leveraging all on extensive experience in the oil and gas industry, which makes a lot of sense, as we need to learn from the past so as not to repeat it. Some people have also asked us if we're open to new members, and obviously the answer is yes, because as we deploy in different regions of the world, it makes a lot of sense to keep including local players that have complementary skills. And finally, it's also very important, once we've structured knowledge, we've structured operational excellence, to also be able to create a network of like-minded companies of common interests. Nicolas, your company has been heavily involved in the Earth 2 initiative. What is your feeling regarding the present-day natural hydrogen network? You know, we recently saw the start of the Earth 2 initiative. What is it? What are its objectives?
Yeah, as mentioned previously, and actually completely in line, in the same train of my colleagues, Within 458 Energy, we are strongly believing that technical and business collaboration are the best way, to not say the only way, to speed up the emergence of a strong and visible natural hydrogen sector. The problem is natural hydrogen sector shows a clear lack of structuration and a clear deficit of notoriety. It is the reason why we decided to launch in collaboration with another corporate acting on this sector, CBA Group, and with the support of Paul Avenia, the French competitiveness cluster dedicated to subsurface, an initiative called Earth-2 with two main objectives. First, federate academic and industrial actors working on the subsurface hydrogen, for example, to facilitate the launch of collaborative program or project. Secondly, promoting the contribution of subsurface in the hydrogen industry, currently not enough considered by decision makers. So it will take the format of a club, a business club, where natural hydrogen actors could exchange on specific subjects, technical, regulation, for instance. We'll have roundtable, we will also be organized with specific decision makers. It will be also the occasion to collaborate on a specific strategy, communication initiative to efficiently promote the sector. Well, this initiative could be considered a bit like the antechamber of a more operational initiative, like the collaborative platform Michael, Alain and Pierre presented just before. And to launch such initiative, we need first to have a place where we can meet each other and exchange. And Earth-2 is basically, actually, this is the place where we want to do that.
And if some of our listeners today want to join the movement, what should they do?
Yeah, as mentioned before, the initiative is currently under construction for an official launch this summer. A transition board composed of 10 entities, academics, startup, large group, and subsurface contractor are presently working on the roadmap. So we received already 90 expressions of interest from corporates, academics, state agency, freelance. It is highly motivating for the transition board, as it seems to show that there is a real need for such initiative. But clearly, if you are interested, feel free to follow the link currently at the screen. This link is also available within the Earth-2 Insight in the H-NAT website in the part resources. And finally, there is already an active group on LinkedIn where you can also find a lot of information.
Thank you very much, Nicolas. I think this is a perfect way to wrap up this session. Let me thank all of our listeners for their attention. And let me just close by saying something that I think all of us here on this panel agree to, which is that our planet needs a paradigm shift. Abundant supplies of renewable green energy produced economically in a decentralized manner to ensure that economic value is created in a sustainable manner and remains on a local level. This is what the energy transition for the 21st century must look like. And at HYNAT, we're convinced that a hydrogen economy based on the use of natural hydrogen is an integral part of this paradigm shift. With our partners, being HETOS, 45 Energy, HYNAT is looking forward to working with those countries, those emerging countries, interested in taking part in this paradigm shift. The Earth gave us coal, oil, and gas for the 20th century. Our planet is giving us natural hydrogen for the 21st century and beyond. Let's work together to make this happen. Don't hesitate to contact us. We will be glad to answer your questions. Thank you once again. Stay safe and goodbye.